What is going on, guys and girls? Welcome back to Crusader Kings 2 Game of Thrones during the Andal Invasion, where we're playing as King Godric the Chaste, who has just returned from the most glorious raiding expedition ever. Not only have we raided the free cities, and Karth, and the cities of Giscar, but also Valyria itself. And that is quite an amazing feat. We've returned with over 800 gold in loot. And now we're back and we're able to finally fulfill the goal of this series, to reform our religion. And I'm very, very excited for this. I can't even tell you how excited I am. And I actually spent quite some time to prepare today's video here because this is a big deal. We're only going to get to reform our faith once. And this will significantly impact on how the series progresses, because here's basically what I've done. I have created 3 different combinations of natures, doctrines, and leadership, I guess abilities, whatever, or aspects, that will present a unique way of playing from this point on forward. And I want to share those 3 options with you right now, and I want to go really into detail what this means specifically and what it entails. And at the end of it, you guys will have the chance to vote on which option you would like to see. And we can only choose one, obviously, and we definitely will choose one. Like, I'm not going to stay unreformed, even though that would technically be an option. I obviously want to do it because it's been a goal of this series. So there will be a YouTube poll popping up at some point, but you can always just click on the top right corner. There's a little eye icon. You can click on that, and there you will find the poll, and then you can choose which option you support. Obviously, you can also talk about it in the comments and maybe sway others to your cause. But yeah, this is basically the vote that counts. Nothing in the comments counts. I will only go by what the YouTube poll suggests. And there's also going to be a deadline in the description of the video, and you know, at which point the votes will close and we'll choose the majority. And yeah, so without further ado, I want to introduce you to the 3 options I've chosen. Actually, that's not entirely true. Before I show you what new options we might be able to choose from, I do want to talk about what our religion currently entails. And I will show you this, which will basically, show you all you might want to know about our religion. But I'm going to quickly summarize this as well. Basically, right now, the perks of our current religion are looting, which we've done extensively, concubinage, which we've also done extensively, basically taking concubines or consorts if we ever have a female ruler. We have the usage of pirate CBs, which we have used several times as well, taking the Wolf's Den or Gold Town, for example. We also have the river navigation, which we have actually only used once, navigating the Trident over to raid the Rock, but still, it's kind of useful. And lastly, we have the defensive attrition, or rather, enemies get the defensive attrition in our homeland. So basically, whenever Tyrosh or other large nations, even Valyria, attacked us, they lost significant amount of men just to attrition, just to dying in our mountains. And that's been actually our saving grace several times. But yeah, so this is what our religion entails currently. And now I want to present to you the 3 options that we have moving forward. Now, the first one is what I call the diplomatic approach, and it basically has the following combinations. As nature, we have cosmopolitan. As doctrine, we have, or as doctrines, we have both syncretism as well as, and I can't actually put this one in here, worship of the 7. I'll talk more about this first. And lastly, we have the God-King worship. Now, let me just talk about one thing that's going to be the same across all 3 options that I have. The leadership. The leadership is always going to be God King. And the reasoning here is that people have actually suggested it in like the very first episode that I should do that. And basically, this is the most interesting. I've not seen this in base game CK2. I don't think it exists. It's unique to Game of Thrones. And so this is one of the reasons I want to pick it. But also, it kind of fits, I would say. Now, we have autonomous, which I really don't like. This is kind of like, this basically means we have never a religious head, which, I don't know. This means you have like the Orthodox system, but that doesn't really make too much sense either, and I don't like it. It's kind of wonky. This is like the papal system, or like the system we have with the High Septon here for the Faith of the Seven. And then temporal is basically the same as God King, where you have a spiritual leader. Well, where you have a worldly leader who's also the spiritual leader. But the only difference is that as God King, you're actually also worshipped as the god. And again, this is just the most interesting, most unique, and so I want to pick that one. And I feel like it fits for Godric as well. I mean, his name is literally Godric, you know. Yeah, but that's, you know, that's just his name. But still, you know, he's proud. I could see that just kind of work. And we've kind of been playing, you know, with the kings, might as well be a god king, right? I could definitely see that. So it makes sense both in lore, and it's very interesting. So this is going to be the same all across the various the various options we have. Just want to get that out of the way. But yeah, so the first one, as I said, is going to be a diplomatic approach, and I'll tell you why. Now, Cosmopolitan, you can see right here, this gives us the following boon. Our religion will allow us to intermarry with our neighboring faiths, and opinion with all foreign religion groups is increased by +5, and our realm province revolt risk is reduced. It doesn't show how much here, but it's actually by -2. I've checked this, so I just want to get this out of the way as well. I've basically tried out all the 3 options I will present to you, and I've kind of checked what we can and cannot do, so I can give you a really accurate description of how the game would look like if you were to choose that option. So yeah, Cosmopolitan, I've checked, the revolt risk is -2%. That's not really a big deal. We've never really had a revolt, and I don't think it's really going to be an issue, but still, it is a boon. Now, what we will have a problem with is our moral authority, although that really isn't a problem either, because we're not going to be converting anyone. That's just basically something that you guys will have to keep in mind. If we go this path, we can't convert anyone. And that's basically it. But the big strength is that we get to convert others. Now, this coupled with syncretism will allow us to choose another faith as a syncretic faith. And here I should mention that you can't just choose a single faith, like, for example, the old gods, right? You can't just choose this one. You actually get to choose an entire group. So if we choose the old gods, we get the entire Westerosi gods group, which also includes the Faith of the Seven, for example. And this is a big deal, because those are basically the only religions that matter to us. The Ironborn would not be included, but again, they don't actually matter to us. These are the 2 big ones that matter to us. And secondly, we would obviously go with the Faith of the Seven worship right here. This will give us even more bonuses. As you can see, we can freely intermarry with characters who worship the Seven, which we can already do as if we border them with Cosmopolitan, but still, we get extra increased relation with them +5, and we have access to traditions of knighthood and tournaments, which is really, really cool. Now, in addition to that, their gods will be added to ours, which is going to be interesting as well. So basically, I've already checked this as well. Right now, our gods are the Lady of the Waves, Lord of the Skies, the Merlin King, and the Moon Pale Maiden. And then the 7 aspects of faith will be added to that as well, like the Stranger, Warrior, and so on and so forth. And I've already got some great lore with that as well, but I'll get to that a little bit later. So basically, again, the pros, we can intermarry with our neighbors, reduce revolt risk, we can improve relations by choosing a syncretic faith, we will get tournaments and knighthood, we will have, and we will actually be able to still raid, that's still something that we keep, and we get to keep our piracy invasions as well if we want to keep them. What we will lose is the defensive attrition, the river navigation, we will basically not be able to convert anyone anymore, and here's the thing, we might have a lore conflict with slavery. Like in canon history, the Septons basically abandoned some of the more sinful practices in the Sisters, right? And so, yeah, both the old gods and the Seven are traditionally against slavery, so this could be a little bit of a problem, but maybe not if you hear me out now, because I've decided that we can do the following. The Lady of the Waves will represent the mother in the Faith of the Seven. The Lord of the Skies will obviously represent the father, right? So that's 2 gods. Then the Merlin King will represent the warrior in the Faith of the Seven, and the Moon Pale Maiden will obviously represent the maiden. So we already got 4 gods, basically our own gods, already, you know, in control. Or I guess already, incorporated into the 7. So then we will simply add the Smith and the Crone. They will simply be added as new aspects, I guess. And the 7th aspect, the Stranger, that will be our God King, the ruler of the sisters. That will be aspect of the Stranger. And here's the cool thing. The Stranger is associated with death and, you know, all these kind of negative things. And that could then explain why we are looters, why we are going raiding, because we're basically the incarnation of death itself. So obviously, we show up to others, we enslave them, or we kill them, or we do other brutal things that we have done previously. Obviously, you know, our previous rulers were Dennis the Black and Humphrey the Oppressor. So it kind of fits in that regard as well. So this is kind of how I set this up. I hope you like it. I think it's a very unique approach. It will allow us to basically form alliances with everyone. We can freely intermarry. I mean, there was right now we don't have that problem because we're Godric the Chaste, but I know that as Humphrey, we had so many kids, we actually started marrying them between each other, like within our family, and some of our people didn't even marry at all, right? And so this would no longer be a problem because we could marry anyone, right? Anyone we border, we could marry pirates, whatever. And also, yeah, that's another thing I want to mention. We already have a kind of a cosmopolitan realm. I mean, we have someone following the old gods right here. We have actually been friends with several Faith of the Seven worshipping people. I mean, just remember House Oldreaver, which previously held Ghoultown. Let me quickly show you the history here. So, yeah, we had Ronald Oldreaver following the Faith of the Seven. He converted to the old gods at some point. Lionel was a good friend of Dennis, then Ronald was a good friend of Humphrey. Vardus, his son, was a good friend of Humphrey, both of them following the Faith of the Seven, sometimes even the old gods. And at some point, we also had a pirate lord following the pirate religion. So I think at some point during our reign, we had 4 religions in our realm. The Lady of the Waves, the old gods, the Faith of the Seven, and a pirate religion. So we are pretty cosmopolitan at the already, and have been in history. And right now, we actually have someone who's still following the Faith of the Seven as well. Now, this is a requirement for choosing this. We actually need to have either be like part of that religion group, or have sympathy for the Westerosi gods, or have a liege or vassal who worships the Seven. So my workaround here would be to actually land this guy, Umfred Torrent, who's currently the heir to Gulhall. I would simply grant him the title of the Marshes. That would make him our vassal, and he's following the Faith of the Seven, and then we could pick this aspect. I've already tried this. I'm not going to do it right now because, you know, if you choose a different option, that would be kind of a waste. But yeah, that is how I would do it. And then we could go for this sort of diplomatic approach, the cosmopolitan approach. All right, now, that's the one approach. Second, we have a very interesting and very different way. Let me quickly show you this one as well. We go with Cutthroat, we go with Blood Magic, and we go with Ritual Sacrifice, and obviously God King is the same. Now this one, I guess you'll always see, is really heavily going into like the sinful area, and obviously, yeah, this plays into the whole Dennis the Black, Humphrey the Oppressor thing. We're just gonna go completely bonkers, fully nuts, yeah, we have several bonuses. First of all, kinslaying will not be seen as a taboo. Now, we haven't actually kinslayed yet, but that might come in handy. Also, known murderers are not really shunned with dishonor, which is kind of interesting. We can just mistreat our prisoners, which I think we've kind of already done. Like, we've always lashed our slaves and all of that. Again, you know, we have had one person nicknamed the Oppressor, the other the Black. So pretty bad there. And this is also interesting. Rulers are more likely to start plots and factions, including against their own children. So this would basically just make this a little bit more interesting. Maybe there's going to be a lot more killings going on. I could see that would be fun, but also this particular, like the whole faction thing and maybe the plots as well, that plays into another one of our doctrines here, blood magic. Now, blood magic is really cool because when magic is strong in the world, we can wield dark powers. Now, these dark powers are basically, if you've ever played as the devil worshippers in CK2, this is the thing. I've tried this here, and basically it's the tainted touch, the demonic possession, and stuff like that, and you have to sacrifice people for dark power, basically. That's how it works. And then you can use that dark power for all kinds of things. Magic right now is strong, by the way, I should mention that, because dragons are alive, so we would be able to take advantage of this quite a lot. Also, it allows us to access the powers of healing and all kinds of other things. But yeah, basically it's the devil worshipper powers of vanilla CK2. And also, we can use to read signs before war to improve troop morale. Now, I haven't actually done that. I'm not quite sure what this does. But I think this is just kind of like a random event that happens. But there's something that is even better that plays into this, and this is the ritual sacrifices. Basically, this allows us to sacrifice prisoners for piety. Now, sacrificing prisoners will unlock special traits and actions, and I haven't really figured out like too much about that. It gives us, first of all, a lot of piety, which is nice, because sometimes for certain things, piety is necessary. But also it ties very well into the blood magic thing, because if we sacrifice, we not only gain piety, but we also gain the dark magic. So every sacrifice is basically worth double. So those two go very well together. And obviously, having just a God King, you know, it just kind of fits with just the overall awesome guy. Now, there's other things I should mention here. I'm not sure which one of those. I think it's blood magic. This one allows us to figure out if there's plots against us. And this plays so well into the cutthroat thing, because there's going to be more plots around us, then we will use our dark power to figure out if there's plots against us. Then we can kill these people, even if they're our own kin, we can just kill them, and then sacrifice them for even more dark power. So it's just going to be a bloodbath of a game, but it could be really fun, and so this is something I find very cool. Now, there's other perks I want to talk about here, because I guess we'll actually talk about the bad things. There's one major drawback to this route. We will no longer be allowed to raid. This is a big deal. We will not have any raiding. I don't know why that is. I really don't understand, but I've tried it multiple times. It's not a bug. We will definitely no longer be allowed to raid. Now, obviously, that means we also do not have the river navigation. We don't have the defensive attrition and stuff like that. Obviously, that could be plots to kill us, but I think that's more a good thing. I put it to, drawback, but it's really kind of a benefit, I would say. But yeah, also, we can't really get any concubines that much anymore because we don't have the raiding ability, but we get to actually use slaves as concubines. And here's another thing. I'm going to go to the bonuses now. We may not have the ability to raid anymore, but because of the ritual sacrifice, we get the slave raid casus belli, which means we can just declare war on other nations. And for example, Old Castle right now, we could declare war on them, and we could, slave raid them. We get a slave camp, which is 400 gold. So still, that's a decent amount of income. Plus, we get 3 personal slaves immediately that we can then either sacrifice for, power and piety, or we can use as actual slaves and concubines and stuff like that. So yeah, we would actually have to declare wars, and we can't just raid, so it's going to be a little bit different, but not too much. So yeah, that kind of plays into that. And then another thing, right, there's a couple other things I want to talk about here. So also, we get the slave raid and the pirate invasion. We get to keep that one as well. We just don't get the raiding. Now, kinslaying, torture, and stuff like that will be okay, which is cool. We also, with the sacrifices, have one huge bonus, because we can get up to plus 30% morale for 10 years. 30% army morale for 10 years. This does come as a huge cost, but because we'll get some debuffs to our to our nation after we sacrificed our own population, but still, that's kind of cool. We can also go for gladiator-style blood tournaments. So we won't have the tournaments for the Faith of the Seven, like the regular nightly tournaments. We're gonna have like gladiator fights, which is, you know, just as cool, if not cooler. Probably cooler, I guess. Then, yeah, I already talked about, you know, the whole blood magic thing. That's obviously a bonus as well. Yeah, so that is that. A very sinful, very satanistic, I guess, thing, whatever. But yeah, that could be really, really cool. It's definitely very unique. We'll never get to... I mean, Cutthroat, I've never seen this in CK2 Vanilla, so this is a really cool thing. It ties very nicely together. Yeah, and the last one I want to show you is the one that's the least spectacular. The two I've shown you just now is going to be interesting. They both have their roots in our current gameplay, but obviously they're going completely different ways. And the last one I want to show you is kind of not new. It's actually kind of what we've already had this entire game in a way. But I still want to show it to you because I feel like it's a valid option either way. So, obviously the God King stays, no change there. We're gonna go with Unyielding. Now, well, okay, let me tell you this. Unyielding, Seabound, and Animistic. Now, Unyielding gives us insane bonuses to our armies. We get to have plus 80% morale, when fighting in True Faith provinces, which is basically just a home region. We gain a plus 40% garrison size. That's insane. Plus 30% garrison size, plus 80% morale, and also we gain a plus 80% combat defense for all unit types when fighting in our own lands. So we're just going to be incredibly strong. No one will ever be able to invade us. Like, the only people who might be able to kill us are the Valyrians if they come with dragons. That's a possibility, but even then, I mean, then we're going to be fucked either way. Like, no matter who we are, but like, we've got the best chances with this nature here. This is so good. Now, also, if we pick this, we will be allowed to raid as usual, and we will still have our pirate invasions. What we won't have is the defensive attrition. We will have the river navigation, and I think, yeah, we're gonna have the regular concubinage because we're still gonna be able to raid and all that stuff. Now, Animistic gives us an extra plus 5% morale anywhere. So that means if we're outside of our True Faith provinces, we would only have 5% army morale, and when we're inside our True Faith provinces, we're going to have 85%. So it's quite a big difference, but still, it's a nice morale boost. Also, we're going to get the Rite of Passage event. I don't really know what that does, but it's kind of a nice flavor event. I could see that this is cool to have. And our characters will be incredibly difficult to convert. That's also part of the Unyielding thing. We're basically always going to be able to keep our religion, and that ties strongly into our whole independence, I guess, theme that we have had in this game so far. Yeah, the drawbacks of this setup is basically none. There's no drawback really, because it's kind of the same we have played the entire series. Like, I guess that's the drawback. Like, there's nothing new about it. There's nothing that's special. It's just the way we've always played. We're gonna gain some extra bonuses for fighting, which is nice. Right now we don't have any, so this is gonna be really cool. We're gonna be able to raid as we have done before. The only thing that's really gonna change is we're gonna get these bonuses in favor of the defensive attrition. That's really all that's gonna change, and we're gonna have a God King. That, you know, that's a difference as well. So, yeah, this is, as I said, this is nothing new. This is just kind of improving our religion a little bit, but we're not going to go a new way, I would say. So this is going to most closely resemble what we currently have. Now, there's two things I want to mention just now, for those of you who might be curious. I was also thinking, obviously, I looked through all of this, and there's some things where you might think, hey, this could fit as well. And two that you may have particularly thought about was Slaver, where our religion is considered a traditional slaver religion, and where we can spend piety to declare wars of enslavement. This is pretty useless because from my testing, I've noticed that we can always be slavers. Like, unless we pick anti-slavery, obviously, but we can just do this whenever. Like, we can still raid. And the The only thing this adds is the slave raid Casus Belli. But this one is also added with the ritual sacrifices. And for the other two, for either the cosmopolitan approach or the last one we have, we don't really need the slave raid Casus Belli because we just raid and get slaves this way. So this doesn't really add much. And the other thing is daring right here. Now daring, this you know, allows us to become notorious raiders, which I guess gives us like cool traits, but I haven't actually seen that. I think this actually works only for Ironborn, or maybe it would then work for us as well. But yeah, this hasn't, I mean, this is cool, I guess, but it's not really a big deal. And these invasions of coastal duchies and high lordships, I think this is the pirate invasion, and we already have that one. Maybe it's a little bit different, but I don't really see us, you know, I don't really see the need in that. So, like, this is one reason, like, it's not really adding much. And at the same time, this only goes together with Seabound. Like if we want to choose this, we would have to choose Seabound, and that basically means we can't get anything else. And I don't know. I just don't really find it that interesting. So, this is why I didn't choose Daring or the Slavers. But yeah, those are the three options. Again, the Cosmopolitan approach, the Cutthroat approach, or the Unyielding approach. The options will be presented here in the YouTube poll, and I want you guys to, yeah, obviously cast your vote and let me know what you think is best. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.